Hi, my name is Robert Simser. I'm a Canadian-American veteran, both services, both countries, in that one Korean War. I suppose the easiest way to tell you how Canada has been involved in many of the wars with the United States is in the American Civil War in the 1860s. There were 64,000 Canadians fought, mostly with the North, some with the South. But the ones that we only have records of the guys that were with the North. There's no record of the guys that were with the South. But to say something not least, there were 29 Canadians won the Congressional Medal of Honor during the American Civil War. In Vietnam, of course, that's a long way apart, and they did honors to the Canadians who fought, 34,000 Canadians who fought in Vietnam. The ones that got killed over there, America has taken the honor of putting them on the first of the monument. Now that's an awful high honor for them to put Canadian veterans at the first of the monument. But you got to remember, they volunteered. They came across the country, across the border, and joined the American service. I myself was born in 1932 in Ottawa, Canada. My uncle was the chief of police of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. After his retirement in the 40s, he moved down to Wenatchee, Washington. The easiest way to say that things weren't easy in the 40s. My dad died in 46. 2 years later, I found myself in Wenatchee, Washington, a Canadian coming down, and they suggested that I register with the Selective Service, and I did. 3 weeks later, we got the letter saying, "Greetings," and they suggested that I go down and join the Army, and I did. I joined the 2nd Infantry Division, went to Texas for training, and back to Fort Lewis. In 1950, when Korea broke out, I was training guys in Fort Lewis, Washington. Needless to say, I was on the USS Griffin later that year going to Korea, and I spent a cold winter in 1950. The only reason I got out of Korea when that big push came out of the North. A lot of people forget history, but if you love history, you go back into it and you find out what really happened in Korea. While we were northbound, the Chinese were southbound with divisions of soldiers in the mountains, going undetected. When we got the big push across the Yalu and back down to Hang Nem for evacuation, I would not have got out there if it hadn't been for a bunch of weekend warriors from Roanoke, Virginia, who I've never met after that. But I say it with all sincerity, if I hadn't met up with those guys, the 2 officers that I was driving with, I would never have got out of Korea. I would have been up in the north with a lot of guys that went north and couldn't help it. I got a leg injury, I wounded in Honsong in 1951 in February actually. My DD-214 says March, but it was February. I got hit in the right leg and it got me a ticket home. And I had my 3 years in, and I really wanted to get back home and see my folks. I'm trying to skip as much as I can of the atrocities that happened in Korea, and there was lots of them. Memories that everybody doesn't want to remember. When I got back to Fort Lewis and took a discharge, I went back to Canada. And I was raised in Ottawa, Canada, which is the capital of Canada, and there was no work. People were working for $5 a month in their keep on farms, and that's a fact. And there was lots of immigrants even back in the 50s that were filling in and working. And I say this in all sincerity, the country is filled up and made up of legal veterans, not illegal veterans. I'm sorry, immigrants. I'm just trying to think of what happened then. I came back to Ottawa and I went down to HMCS Carleton. Somebody said they were recruiting in the Canadian Navy, and I thought a little blue uniform, a little white hat, maybe I'd chase some girls around like on everybody's mind when they're that age. But it didn't quite happen that way. I joined, and 2 weeks later found me down in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia, going through boot camp again, because I came out of a different service and I had to go through boot camp. I went for 19 weeks boot camp in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia. And from then, without any leave, they dispatched me to the west coast of Canada, and I joined the HMCS Athabascan, which was one of the Canadian tribal classes, destroyers. They were on duty every month of Korea. And I was 14 months that time in Korea, so I was there for all 3 years of the war. Actually, it was 4 years. 50, 51, 52, and 53. That's parts of 4 years. And it seemed that long to me. But it was over soon enough. I got wounded on the HMCS Athabascan. I had an explosion and I lost my one eardrum. But I'm still here. I'm 75 and still alive. And I'm grateful, but I'll tell you one thing, old age is not for sissies. You gotta have something to get through it. I meet a lot of guys. I'm with the Osceola Veterans Council here in Florida. I'm a president of the Legion in Canada. And I work 12 months out of the year for veterans, and I do what I can to make it easier on my compadres. So I've tried to get through that as easy as I can, and without too much emotion. I know there are a lot of guys that I've met, a lot of guys that are not here now, gone on to the just reward, which I will go to one day soon, I would imagine. And if I could say anything to my fellow veterans, keep involved and get involved with other veterans in making the way easier for them. So God bless each one of you and keep you. You take care now. Bye-bye.